right, Ross. There's a lot of talk, and I know we're going to have a lot of fun, of course, with this public spat. But there is material damage here when you look at what happened to the shares. And more importantly, you saw the bids higher in some of the, I guess, the potential would-be competitors, not necessarily to Tesla, but to Starlink and SpaceX, like AST, like EchoStar. What do you make of this?
Yeah, this is a disaster for Musk. I don't know if I can spin it in a positive way because it's just so beyond any intelligent businessman's behavior would be. I can't imagine after putting Trump in there that he would then turn Trump into an enemy of all things, because he's still the president of the United States. And Elon just tweeted something like, well, I'm going to be around for another 40 years and he'll only be around for another 3.5. And I think that's really ignorant thinking, because Trump is president of the United States, whether we like it or not, and Elon's going to have to live with this for quite some time, and it could be very detrimental to him and his companies. And
this brings up a good question just about leadership in general. There's been a lot of talk when with this new administration, how CEOs were able to navigate, and we've seen a lot of CEOs do it well. For better or for worse, a lot of them have gotten pats on the back for the way that they've courted this administration. Understand that for better or for worse, these are the people in power, and you have to at least appease them to some extent. And I do wonder about the leadership at Tesla and the idea that he's making this much more personal and not understanding that he has a duty not just to himself, but to all the stakeholders in his companies to find a way to be cooperative with this government in some way or another, particularly given how much his business depends on government contracts.
Correct. And obviously Elon isn't functioning to the benefit of his shareholders and hasn't been for many years. And, you can take it any way you want, whether it's the purchase of Twitter, the, XAI, and now this whole political disaster. None of this has been good for Tesla shareholders, and I've been saying this now for years. The board of directors is so bad at Tesla, and let me tell you, there was just a letter that's many shareholders from institutions and pension funds had written the board of directors about Elon Musk and reining in this kind of behavior. And I can't assume that this isn't going to lead to massive shareholder lawsuits against the board of directors and Tesla for the loss in value from this behavior, which is clearly detrimental to its shareholders.
Why not make the change? Look, I understand that he has kind of a singular identity with this company, but why not just move him to like a chairman role or something and bring in a real operational person? I mean, you think about the success that SpaceX has, and a lot of people talk about that primarily because he's not really in there making the day-to-day decisions. He actually has someone competent running that, and I think that's why a lot of people, quite frankly, are championing at the bit for that company to go public. Isn't it now time? He's been at the helm of Tesla for so long, and you've seen the damage over the last couple of years. Why not just make that switch now?
Yeah, well, the next is going to be the damage to SpaceX, because SpaceX relies on almost 100% on governments around the world and the U.S. government to fund it. And this is an easy target because we don't need to go to Mars, that's for sure. And so who's going to pay for all this stuff? And, the truth is that SpaceX valuation was probably cut in half today because of this behavior. Whether SpaceX investors will realize that on the short or medium term, because it's a private company, it's insulated from the stock market. But this is, devastating to SpaceX as well.
Hey, Ross, sorry, just to cut you off here. We're actually getting some additional news on Tesla right now. The share is extending their drop out of the cash session now in after-hours trade, down 2%. The headline is that SpaceX will begin decommissioning Dragon spacecraft. And Elon Musk, in a post on X, is saying, and I'm going to quote him directly, "In light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contracts at SpaceX, we will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately." I'm actually a little stunned by this. Not just that he did it, but why do this so quickly right now? I mean, this is all just transpired over a matter of hours. And now you're basically saying he's decommissioning one of their flagship projects? Am I missing something?
Somebody needs to come in and get him off the phone and get him to stop tweeting. There's clearly no, control over what's happening to what is the dismantling of the Musk empire in real time as we're watching it. Somebody needs to stop this guy, whether I'm not going to assume he's on drugs or not on drugs, but somebody's going to stop him.
Yeah, well, let's not go there. But who's going to stop him? I mean, I'm looking at the board. 9 people on this board, at least 2 of them well, one's him, and obviously his brother. You got Murdoch, you got a couple other people like Kathleen Wilson-Thompson, and you got, of course, Jeff Straubel on there. You have a couple of respected names here, but I just wonder, is this the type of board that can actually push back? Where is the pressure going to come from?
No. The board of directors of Tesla is the weakest group of individuals that have ever stepped foot on a board. Okay, I can't be more direct about the fraud that this board is. You know, it's just embarrassment to public companies across the globe that it exists in this manner. And this Chipotle guy who just got on the board the other day, poor guy. You know, I realized that when I was thinking about running for the board, what a bad idea that was. And so I reversed that idea, you know, pretty quickly in dealing with what was going to be dealt with. So the board isn't going to do anything. Yeah. Nobody's going to protect Tesla shareholders. And the way you protect yourself is by selling stock. And that's, I personally sold some Tesla stock today. And you know, we've been sellers for years and continue to be sellers of Tesla.